Good morning. Welcome to this circle where we gather, where we each have a place and we take our place, where we make space for one another, where we make space for our differences and we make space for our common journey. We welcome you into this time and into this place where we share hurts and healing, the healing journey of our woundedness. And as we gather this day, and as we gather each time in this circle, we gather with gratitude for the gifts of our first peoples who made their home on this land, generations of Cree people for the stories, the songs, the culture, the traditions, the symbols that have been long and deep in this land. We gather with gratitude for our partnership. We gather with a commitment to a healing relationship to heal the wounds of our broken history. We gather that the circle might be restored, whispered back into shape. And we gather with one another, inviting each other into this time and into this place with our song. I invite us to respond to one another. If you would complete each of my thoughts with these words, may our hearts be open. In the beauty of this day, in the trouble and beauty of our lives, in the midst of our hurt and our healing journeys, in the wisdom of our experience, to the stories we each are, and to the stories we hear from contemporary and ancient wisdom, to the sacredness we call by so many different names. In the words of Greta Vosper, we are born into light, and yet we are ever seeking it. We come into the light of this new day, hungry for the light that enlightens our darkness, hungry for the light that lifts our day into morning, hungry for the light that gives us just enough to see the next step, the next piece of our road. We come into this circle to share light with one another, the light that we have found in our lived experience, the light that we have found deep within our tradition and in the tradition of others. We come in search of the light we need in this moment, for this time. And so we pause in this moment of being between getting here and being here to draw ourselves into the great gift of presence. Part of what draws us into any spiritual community and what brings us to the circle week by week, what brings us to our lives day by day to live as spiritual beings, is to strengthen our intention to live more closely to the values we hold dear. And so with one another, we strengthen our intentions together as we gather, which is to say, we pray. I invite us to offer our prayer responsively. I'll offer the words printed in the italic light type, and I invite you to offer the words printed in bold. In caring for one another, may we be untiring. In sheltering one another, may we be strong. In forgiving one another, may we be generous. In the expectations we have of one another, may we be realistic. In the songs we sing with one another, may we seek harmony. And in loving one another, may we be all these things and more. As we seek to live with open hearts, we pray. Amen. These are the words of a contemporary poet we know well in this community, a poet by the name of Mary Oliver, who's now in her early 80s making her home in Florida. From her many years on Cape Cod, the images of that natural world shaped her poetry and shaped her spirituality. This is her poem entitled Lead. Here's a story to break your heart. Are you willing? This winter, the loons came to our harbor and died one by one of nothing we could see. A friend told me of one on the shore that lifted its head and opened its elegant beak and cried out in the long, sweet savoring of its life, which, if you've heard it, you know is a sacred thing, and for which, if you have not heard it, you had better hurry to where they are still singing. And believe me, tell no one just where that is. The next morning, this loon, speckled and iridescent and with a plan to fly home to some hidden lake, was dead on the shore. I tell you this to break your heart, by which I mean only that it break open and never close again to the rest of the world. This is the witness of one of our great elders and a contemporary poet. I'm very pleased to welcome to our circle today someone who's no stranger in our circle, Emmanuel Gutera. Emmanuel, over the number of years that he has been coming to Canada periodically working on his Doctor of Ministry degree from St. Stephen's College, has found himself from time to time in this circle, and many of us have had the privilege to get to know him. We welcome Emmanuel as a native Rwandan who has also made his home in Burundi and in Uganda, because it has often been impossible to be at home in his own homeland. Emmanuel and his wife Athanasi are parents of 4 children, and Emmanuel is an Anglican pastor whose work now is with the orphans and poor and women and children of a project he and his wife and some friends founded called YEGO. We'll have the opportunity to learn more about the work of YEGO and its partner, YEGO Canada. Following our gathering here this morning, we'll gather informally to talk more about that and to share questions with one another. I'm very pleased, Emmanuel, to welcome you to be in this circle today and to share something of your experiences with us. We welcome you as a friend, as a brother. We're so glad you're here.
Good morning. It's wonderful for me to be here and share about Rwanda. Rwanda is a tiny country located between Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, Tanzania, Burundi, and Uganda. Burundi is in the south, Congo is in the west, Uganda is in the north, and Tanzania in the west. I was born 1958. 1963, December, the eve, Christmas Eve, 24th, my family and I, by that time, were 2 children. My brother, who is older than me, 2 years older, and me. So then that evening, as Anglicans active in their faith, we are singing carols because the following day was a great day, Christmas. We sang, we enjoyed. It was, if I remember correctly, we started around 8, then around 9 we were done. And then my mother reminded us that it was time to go to bed, because the following day was a long day. So nearly 10 p.m. we went to bed. And then around 11 p.m. my mother came, just woke us up, saying, "Get up, get up." Then we wondered. By that time I was 5. We wondered what was happening. My mother told us that our house was under attack. Then we asked, I was young, I could not understand the politics. I said, who is attacking? He said, a group of Hutu people in the neighborhood have decided to come and kill us. It was so sad. I was in total confusion as a young boy. I could not understand why should such a people come and kill us. Yet during the day, I have been playing with their little one, kids of my age. I could not understand. But then the story goes on that these people surrounded our home. They tried to break the main door, and they failed. Because my dad was a carpenter, and he had made the door was very strong. So they tried, these are villagers, they tried, they could not. But then they decided they needed to use another strategy to get inside our house and get rid of us. So they decided to go on the wall and dig a hole, big hole, where they could enter and get rid of us and kill us. Killing us, why? Because we were Tutsi. So these guys took the hose and whatever it is, I would hear them, boo, boo, boo. So you can imagine the situation I was in, and my family was in. They made a big hole so that they could enter and then get hold of my dad and then finish us off. It took, if I remember well, it took them a while, maybe 30 minutes to dig that hole. And then they decided to get muscular men who could just enter the house and get hold of my dad. My dad was a tall guy, muscular, strong. They knew that, and they are aware that it would not be easy to get hold of him. So they sat outside and started discussing. You're muscular, you're strong, try to enter, get hold of him, and then the wife and the children would be much easier. As they were trying to discuss that kind of strategy, whoever would be pointed out would say, My dad was called Leonidas. Said, Leonidas, he's very strong. If I go fast, he will kill me. And you guys, you will enjoy whatever it is when I'm gone. And my wife and the children, my wife will be a widow and the children will be orphans. They discussed. Then there was no volunteer. As they kept discussing, they were discussing loudly to the extent that we were hearing their voices. By that time, a miraculous gunshot took place in the proximity. They ran away. We were saved. That's how my first hurt and trauma started. Why us? Why me? At this age, why should somebody plan to kill me? So after that kind of a situation, my dad, my mother, my brother and I sat, tried to cool down, and then my dad advised all of us that we should go leave the place. Otherwise, they will come back and kill us. So we decided to leave. We had cattle, we had cows, we had goats, we had So we left everything. We left. And the nearest place to run to was Burundi in the south, which would take like 3 to 4 hours of walk. We started walking towards Burundi for safety. Unfortunately for us, wherever we went through, would be arrested. I will cut the stories long. I will cut that short. Whoever would pass would be arrested. They would say, oh, these are Tutsis who are fleeing. There was a tension in the country, whatever it is, and the Hutus were trying to kill the Tutsis. They were saying, oh, these are Tutsis who are fleeing the country. Who would be arrested and beaten up, and my dad would be beaten up, and my mother would be beaten up, and in my presence, and I would feel so sad to see my dad being beaten up and tortured in my presence as a young boy, wondering what was happening. Why do they treat my father and my mother this way? For a journey that would have taken about 3 to 4 hours, it took us 2 months. Because we would try to go here through the bush to go to Burundi, then a group of villagers who would arrest us, they would beat us, they would keep us with them for weeks, and then we negotiate, they would release us, then we continue, then others. So it took us 2 months. But finally, we were able to reach Burundi. And in Burundi, we were put into a refugee camp. First, in the north, in Ngozi, that's where we spent a year. And it's amazing how God works. A missionary, British missionary, who had worked with my dad in our mission where I am born, now had gone to work in Burundi. We found him around. So he took care of us. He provided clothing, because all our clothing were just worn out. We did not have clothing, because most of them were left in the house. So that missionary provided clothing and food. We were there for 1 year. And then later the government decided we should be put in the eastern part. A place called Mushiha. There is a young lady here who knows Burundi, who knows the geography. So that's the eastern part. It's a savanna where there are a lot of mosquitoes and tsetse flies and a lot of snakes, hyenas. Hyenas captured some people, ate some people. Snakes ate some people, died. In my presence, I could see that. So life in the refugee camp was awful. But it's amazing how God protected me and saved me. So in the refugee camp, I had a chance to start my elementary school. My elementary school took place under a tree, contrary to what you have here, under a tree. And I remember one day we were seated just on the grass, and the teacher was trying to teach us, and then a snake just came out in the middle of where we were seated as kids. We were scattered, crying. And the teacher has to run with a stick and kill the snake, and the whole afternoon we could not sit because our classroom was not safe. So those are stories. And then, if I go quicker, I had a chance for secondary school. For the secondary school, while I was in grade 2, after the elementary school, my dad died. I was 16. That was another terrible hurt and trauma. My dad was the source, the provider, the breadwinner. He was gone. And I lost the hope. I thought I could not continue studying. I went to the head or director of the school. I said, "Thank you for everything, but I have to leave. My dad is dead, and he was the one providing everything." I was crying. And then the director said, "Emmanuel, you have been a good student, working hard. Stay. I would try my best to see what we can do." When there was a big hurt and a trauma, God would provide healing. Then the director contacted some friends in Belgium to get me a sponsorship, and then nobody was available until the last minute. A kindergarten class of kids of 3 to 4 years old accepted to put their coins together to sponsor me. Healing can sometimes be provided by young or little ones who feel normally they cannot do something. Those kids would put coins together and were able to sponsor me. I finished the high school. But then, at the end of that, towards 1990, I was blessed to come in contact with a beautiful lady called Tanazi. Some of you have seen her. So we decided to get married. And then 1991, 93, we got our first 2 children. By then, 93, I was given the chance to go to Uganda to train as a minister. So 1 month after I left, it was in October 1993, the president of Burundi was killed, and then there was civil war. And then my wife and children escaped narrowly twice death because they were targeted at home. They wanted to kill them. By that time, I was in Uganda. And then I decided to go back and take them from the country to safety in Uganda. The day I took the plane to go back to Burundi was April 8th, 1994. That's the day the presidential plane, the Rwandan presidential plane was shot down, and then genocide started in Rwanda. Terrible things happened. I was able to land in Burundi, but I spent a whole week in Bujumbura, capital, not able to connect with my family that was living in a second city called Gitega, about 3 hours drive. So to cut the story short, later I was able to get my family out for safety in Uganda, but genocide in Rwanda took place that day, 8th April 1994, and 102 of my relatives were slaughtered. were slaughtered. Those are uncles, aunts, their children. I'm sorry, I feel emotional about that. They were killed. Even their houses, their homes were destroyed. Even today, you can't tell they were living here. So they were killed. So genocide was terrible. Compared to what I went through, genocide was awful. So many people killed. Women raped in the presence of their children and later killed. It was terrible. And the genocide generated thousands and thousands of children not attended to, who lost the entire families. I've got just one story. It's a long story, as I said. It will take so many hours, but I have to cut that short. I have just a short story of a young girl who survived genocide. She was and her family were living in the western part of the country. And the time of genocide, they came and attacked and killed the whole family. They also hit her in the head and chest and on the back. She fell down in a family of 12. They thought she was dead. But amazingly, miraculously, she was not. She spent 2 days sleeping with the dead bodies. Later, she's the one who told us the story. She noticed that she was not dead. She looked around, found dad, mom, siblings were dead. She was 8. And then she moved around. She was very hungry. She went to look for something to eat. In their garden, there is what we call cassava. I don't know if some of you may know. It's a root. She went and took a stick and got one and tried to eat. And then their home was not far from a lake, the Lake Kivu, for those who know that. She went and drank some water. So the neighbors, Hutu neighbors, spotted her. They came rushing to kill her. Fortunately, she was a good swimmer. Being in the neighborhood of the lake, she just jumped in the water and hid there and went far. They could not spot her. But later, of course, she survived. It's a long story. And but she had problems in the chest, on the back. Even when she went to school, she could not sit for a number of hours. When I heard such a story, when I heard the story of children who fell into conversation while watching the movie Passion for Christ, a lot of screaming, shouting, because of that was clicking with the violence, triggering the violence. When I met a boy who was crying because he was in a primary school. He was 10. He did very well at school. Then when he came back, living alone, he had nobody to talk to. Somebody would just touch on the shoulder and say, "Boy, you have done well." He cried. I felt so touched, deeply moved. I wondered what I could do. I approached a number of people. I said, "What is happening with our youth, our children on the street, children who are living alone?" Because genocide killed so many other people to the extent that you would find in some homes a kid of 14, 16 living alone or living with a 12 years old. I felt so touched. I said, God has saved my life for a purpose. I need to give back to the community. I cut the story short because I have got a lot of things on my plate. I went to Uganda with my family, did my education, my first degree, master's, got a job at the university. I did work for 5 years, then went back home after genocide and served as a general secretary. But one thing that has troubled me is sometime I wonder what happens with church leadership. Not all, but some. During a genocide, church leaders, Catholic, Protestants, they invited Tutsis to hide in the churches for safety. And then they would call the militias, "Yes, come, they are here." It was used as a way of gathering people for easy killing. I felt bad about that. Why can so-called church leaders just decide to facilitate the killing of innocent people, or killing people they are supposed to protect? So when I returned back home, 2006, I found the church leadership still facing such a problem. Division, lack of honesty, fighting over power. It's terrible. That's not what people need. Because the Rwandan people need healing. They need powerful word of comfort, of reconciliation, of forgiveness. My journey has been characterized by a lot of hurts, but also by healing, opportunities for healing. God has brought a number of people on my way. I got a chance when I came over to Canada to train as a pastoral counselor to be in a safe place, St. Stephen's. I met people who were caring and loving, and that provided me with opportunities for healing. And I had the opportunity to share about my vision, about the kids, the work we can do to make a difference with the children. YEGO stands for Youth Empowered for Growth and Opportunities. Those are the words we selected to have this word YEGO, which in the Rwandan language means yes, acceptance. That's what I felt. We need to let these people, these young people who are hopeless, let them know there are people who care, who accept them, who take them as they are. So with my friends in Rwanda, we started the organization. We did the paperwork and we had it registered. We started, but of course with a lot of challenges, especially as far as the finances are concerned. But when, for the last 6 years, I've been here, I met a number of people, I made friends, and those friends have been encouragement, very comforting, and they accepted to be part of that vision and the dream to provide the support to the children in Rwanda to give them hope. So what we do with YEGO Rwanda, these are the children who have been wounded in their hearts. They lack everything. They don't have families. They don't have hope. They are confused. So we provide counseling, just listening to them, to allow them to feel there are people who matter, who feel they matter, who care for them, who love them. That's the best way to bring healing to them. But also, we have provided an opportunity for them to meet, gather, and make friendship and share stories and their challenges and comfort one another, but also dance. We use dance. They dance together. They enjoy. But we also thought that most of them are kids who have not been able to go to school because they don't have monies. Some of them are even starving. They don't have food. So we have been trying, working hard at least to send a few of them who are the most needy back to school. We have, at least now, I would say, I'm happy to say that as I speak, we have sent 20 children back to school. Compared to the resources, the little resources we have, I feel that's a big achievement we have done, we have made. We would wish to send more because they're there. They're on the street. They're everywhere. They're hopeless. We also provide, for those who are not able to pay school fees, we provide school materials. At least these are books, these are pens, these are, because without them they cannot be allowed into school. But also we have noticed as you kept working with them that some of them could spend a couple of days without food. I know for people in Canada maybe it would be difficult to understand. But you can imagine a kid, 9 years old or 10, spending a couple of days without anything on the plate. I felt so bad that sometime I would find my pocket is empty. Even the little money I had, I could not stand that. So we worked so hard to raise some little money with friends from Yego, Canada. Gordon is here. Kay Newfeld is here. Joanne and the husband and the others. They are aware of Yego, Canada. Yego, Canada has been very supportive of us. We have been trying to encourage these young ones to have skills by educating them, but also helping them to have healing from the hearts they are going through. So I hope that Gordon and Kay and Joanne, whoever is available later, when we finish this session, they will be able to give additional comments. I want to thank you for listening to me. I've got a long story. I had to cut it short for anything you may not have maybe got properly. Later you can ask any question for clarification. Thank you so much.
With hearts broken open, never to close again to the world, we pause and pray with each other. In the great mystery that is beyond our defining and confining, in the endless circle of being and becoming, in the love in which we live and move and have our being, may we journey into wholeness. May our feet find and follow the path of compassion. May we be bold in facing our hurt, embracing our healing, opening our broken hearts to one another. In the source of all that is, we open our hearts to the sick and dying that they may know the strength of our prayers. To those in search of healing that they may open to the paths of possibility. To all that is endangered, people and creatures, that life may persevere. To all who govern, that they may be governed by justice and have the courage to lead nations rather than follow poles, that they may find the wisdom that sees that protecting the individual is building the common good. We hold in our hearts this day all who call from the margins of torture and trauma, from the margins of oppression, those wounded by the prejudice of sexism or heterosexism or racism or elitism. All of the isms that separate us from one another and from our best humanity. May our hearts be opened to live justice with mercy. May our hearts be open to those grieving and rebuilding in the face of poverty, in the face of HIV and AIDS, in the face of unspeakable memories, in the midst of war. May they be met in our compassion. We pray as those whose hearts have been opened again to the love that birthed us into being and that calls us into life. And we pray in the spirit of the great teacher of the first century, words like those he taught his friends to pray. We embrace the sacredness of life with awe and reverence, and we commit ourselves to work for a more fair and just world. We seek to live with deep intention that all may have enough for today. May we let go of all the guilt and regret that encumbers us and embrace relationships of trust, offering and receiving forgiveness as a way to freedom. May we live examined lives, inspired to find meaning and purpose in our living, working to transform every challenge into an opportunity to grow and thrive. May it ever be so. We go with one another in the great light of love. The love that brought us into being, the love that holds us as spiritual community, the love we share in our families and in the communities we make, the families of friends we create with one another. We go in the light of our hurts, knowing that each of us is invited by life to become a wounded healer, that through our wounds we reach from our pain into the pain of another, and there we create the light of love and of understanding and of compassion. We go with one another, walking in the great light of love. And we go singing words that come to us from South Africa, where there was a time before 1994 when we were invited to sing by the people of South Africa We are marching in the light of love. As change has come and a new day has dawned in that country as it has in Rwanda, we have been invited by the people of South Africa to sing "We Are Walking." There is a time always for marching against injustice and unfairness. But there is a time to be engaged in the long walk of rebuilding, of healing our hurts, and walking together with one another. And so we sing, first in English because it's easy, and then a little more challenging, but you'll find your way when we sing it in its own words. Try your Swahili.